Hi there. In this video, I'm going to take you through the first bit of theory which you need to understand in order to start mixing. So we're going to begin by talking about tempo and BPM. Now, BPM, which stands for beats per minute, determines the playback speed of a track. See, you can think of this in the same way as miles per hour determines the speed of a car. The higher the miles per hour, the faster the car moves. Similarly, the higher the BPM, the faster the music plays through. In the previous video, I mentioned how your transitions have to be as smooth as possible, sometimes even unnoticeable. Well, let's imagine that each track is a car. The first step to creating a seamless transition is to get each of our cars to be driving at the same speed. So if one of our cars is moving at 120 miles per hour, we would need the other car to also be moving at 120 miles per hour. In BPM, this means that we would need both tracks to be set to the exact same BPM. Now, not all tracks inherently have the same BPM. So if you load two tracks and the BPM differs, you can actually use the tempo slider located on the decks to adjust the BPM of one of the tracks until it is exactly the same as the other. So I'm going to quickly demonstrate that on the decks. Now, first of all, to load a track, if you're on standalone decks or on the all-in-one system, you have to push the browse button. You'll have to navigate to playlist, and you can select the playlist that we created in the record box video, go into it, and then simply push this rotary knob to load your first track. Now, as I'm moving this tempo slider, you can see that the tempo changes over here. So when it's in the middle position on number 0, that is the default BPM. As I move it up, the tempo actually lowers, it's inverted. And as I move it down, the tempo speeds up. So track 1 on deck 1 is at 124.0 BPM. So what I would have to do is move this tempo slider until the number over here goes to 124.0 BPM as well. There you go. Now, if I was to press play on both tracks, it would be as though they're moving at the same speed, just like the example I used with the cars moving at the same speed. Now, to demonstrate what happens, I've loaded two tracks, one on each deck, and of course, I've already set the BPM to be exactly the same. What I'm going to do is press play on both tracks at the same time, and I want you to pay attention to how they sound. So I'm going to turn up the volume and press play on both tracks. 1, 2, 3. Now, right now, you're actually hearing two tracks playing at the exact same time. Here is just one track. Here is two. Okay. Now, it kind of sounds like one track because they're both playing back at the same speed. But if I was to change the tempo, so now I've set track 1's tempo to 117.2 beats per minute, or BPM, and I've set Deck's 2 track to 128.3 BPM. I'm going to press play on both again, and I want you to notice that it's going to be very clearly audible that there's two tracks playing, and that it's not going to sound very nice. Let's go. You hear how it's kind of like both of them are clashing? And I'm sure you heard all the clashing that was going on with the rhythms of both tracks. It's not very pleasing, and it's very difficult then for your audience to be able to focus on one track, maybe dance to the rhythm of it, because they're being fed two totally different rhythms. This is why we set the same BPM on both tracks. So to summarize what I've gone through, when you load a new track on either deck, your first step should be to adjust the tempo slider until you set the exact same BPM as the BPM on the other deck. So the way you do this, so let's say I'm playing track 1 here, deck 1, and I'm loading a new track on deck 2. So I'm going to push browse. I'm going to scroll to another track, and I'm going to push the rotary knob in order to load it. what I need to do is look at the number here, which tells me this track is at 124.0 BPM. Look at the number on my new track, which I can see is 123, and move the tempo slider until my new track matches to the one that would be currently playing, which is known as the master track. Now, just a final little point. Where does the word tempo fit in all this? Because so far I've mainly been talking about beats per minute. Well, you can think of it this way. In the same way we say the speed of a car can be 60 miles per hour, we say the tempo of a piece of music can be 120 beats per minute. So tempo is just the musical term we use to describe musical speed. Beats per minute, or BPM, is the numeric value that we use in order to let us know how fast that piece of music is moving.